Welcome to the AI Revenue Loop, your source for practical AI insights from revenue leaders who are making it happen.
Hello, Matt.
Hello,
So,
True.
today we have Matt Brown. He's the three-time entrepreneur, and with one exit, and this one crazy exit, and we'll get to that in a second here. He's currently the CEO and co-founder of Customer OS AI. Matt,
No, True. It's a pleasure. Thanks for having me on.
can you just tell, for the audience here, can you just tell them a little bit about yourself, about your entrepreneur journey?
Spent the last 16 years building B2B SaaS companies. Customer OS is actually my fourth company. One failure, one exit for 519 million, company called Voxbone. Another one is still going pre-IPO, a company called Prove. And now Customer OS. And Customer OS is the culmination of all those learnings rolled into a single platform to help founders and B2B go-to-market teams grow and scale their business efficiently.
That's amazing. So you have Proof. I haven't heard about it, and that's still going.
Yeah, it's still going. I was one of the early team members there, ran product and engineering from about 0 to 40 million in ARR. It's one of the core technologies in banking infrastructure today. So basically, every time you log into your mobile banking app, it's doing authentication through the mobile network on who you are to make sure that you're actually on the phone that you're using to log into your bank account. And underpinning all that is a whole bunch of cryptography and stuff. I've got 10 patents in mobile identity, and I did that for a while. It was a lot of hard work, a lot of fun. Being a startup wedged in between banks and telcos, it's a tough way to make a living, but it worked out.
Yeah, I can only imagine. You found multiple company and led Voxbone to $500 million exit. And the last time we chat, you told me that that acquisition was 6 months in the making, completely all over, only on Zoom. You never met the person, the acquirer in person, right?
Yeah, no, exactly.
That's
The
insane.
entire
Can you
they,
tell us
so
more?
the entire deal, the acquisition, the M&A, it was probably about an 8 month process all in all. Deal fell apart 3 times. It was done entirely over Zoom because we were in the middle of lockdown and COVID. Never met the acquirer in person. The company that bought us was a publicly traded NASDAQ listed company called Bandwidth, based out of Raleigh, North Carolina. As far as the businesses, they're pretty similar. Like so Voxbone, we were AWS for real time voice. So Twilio, MessageBird, RingCentral, 8x8, all of these big voice platforms were built on our core infrastructure. We were predominantly outside the US, so we had 64 country footprint outside the US. Bandwidth was all US. From a high level strategy standpoint, it made a lot of sense. The addressable market outside of the US was equal to that inside the US. Putting the two businesses together made a lot of sense. But there's a lot of nuance to that. And so, the way telecom works in North America is completely different than the way it works in the rest of the world. And cultures between the businesses were very different. And aligning all of those things, plus we had private equity backers, plus all the egos and things that come out when there's $500 million on the table. Like getting all that to come together and actually align all that took a lot of time and effort. A lot of time and effort. Definitely one of the more challenging experiences I've ever been through, for sure.
That's incredible. What was the hardest part about that 6 month journey?
The aligning egos. You learn an awful lot about people when there's $500 million on the table. You find out what they're really about, what they really want, what type of person they are. There is a lot of unspoken motivations that suddenly surfaced. Trying to figure out, who stays with the company, who leaves the company. Like just aligning like that the money, the strategy, the business side of it was relatively straightforward. Covering off the legal aspects again was relatively straightforward. It was the people. Aligning all the people. There was a lot of stakeholders that had to be on the same page, and that was a struggle. So much that the deal fell apart several times before it actually
Oh
got done.
wow, insane. What advice would you give someone in your shoes, knowing what you know now about that process?
A couple of things. So we made a couple of mistakes. Number one, we hired Goldman Sachs as our bankers, and we would have been one of the smaller deals that Goldman had done that year. And so hiring big name bankers for what is really a kind of like a mid-market transaction was probably not the best thing to do. We ended up getting I would say the C or the D team working with us, and that created a lot of stress because we're a small organization running lean, trying to continue to grow a business during COVID, which was a boom time for us, while at the same time trying to structure an M&A. I would have liked to have been supported a little bit better in that process. The second thing is, just making sure that you get to the bottom of everybody's motivations early in the process. A lot of politics and personal motivations and unspoken needs, desires, wants that were surfaced way, way, way too late in the process, and that makes things really difficult.
Got it. I'm writing pages and pages of note. Hopefully one day I will get to use this note. So in one of your LinkedIn posts that got really popular, basically said that because of all the strategy, you were able to pull off these acquisitions to be able to sell Foxbone for $500 million. And that's your GTM lessons, right? You emphasize the importance of retention, expansions, and price increase. And you
Yeah.
go even way so far as bake in like 10% increase in the contract. How does these insight guide the vision behind when you try to build a customer OS? And
So
how do
the
you shape the focus of what you're working on?
so the industry that we operated in, it's notorious for really, really low margin. And so if you look at traditional telecom, these companies are typically running their voice and messaging networks at somewhere between 15 to 30% gross margin. We were able to run Voxbone at north of 60% gross margin, and so something that looked closer to a SaaS, like a true software business, as opposed to a network business. And the reason we were able to do that was, one, we put a quite a significant technology wrap around what we were doing. We had an AWS like infrastructure that allowed you to spin up resources anywhere, which was massively valuable. But the other thing we did was engineer from the beginning a business model that allowed us to have the best unit economics in the business. And that gave us a tremendous advantage. So when other people went to acquire a customer, they were paying more because they didn't have the software wrap. So it cost them more to acquire somebody, get them on board, get them trained, get them integrated, get them stood up. So their customer acquisition costs were higher, and their profitability was lower because they were selling a commodity product. So their payback, their CAC payback period was much, much longer. In contrast, because it was really easy to get set up, really easy to get started, really easy to expand. You didn't have to sign new paperwork when you wanted to go into a new country. Because it was really easy to adopt and grow on the platform, our customer acquisition costs were substantially lower than other players in the industry, probably one third of what other players were. And our customers stayed with us longer, and our gross margins were much higher. So the CAC payback was faster, and the lifetime value was typically larger as well. All of this meant that we could get far more aggressive in customer acquisition because my unit economics were better than the customers. I could do things like spend more on advertising, even though we were a smaller player relative to all the big giants in the industry. Uh, we found that we could go to conferences, we could spend money on marketing, we could spend money on advertising and maintain a high level of ROI there, just simply because our competitors couldn't spend the same amount of money that we would to go acquire customers. And because we would pay it back, they wouldn't. By engineering that into the business model allowed us to grow faster. And subsequently, those unit economics are the primary reason we were attractive in an M&A environment. When we got acquired by Bandwidth, that was a margin expanding transaction for them right? Our gross margin, our unit economics was, I wouldn't say a lot better, but it was definitely better than what they were doing themselves. So that made the transaction a heck of a lot easier, right? If we were coming in at a much lower gross margin, that would have put pressure on them in order to take costs out of the business and whatnot. So by having really, really good unit economics relative, and that's relative to the rest of the industry, it put us in a really, really nice position to ultimately extract a nice multiple out of the business and enjoy that exit.
Amazing. I think that that is pretty relevant to these AI companies. When before you just need to build a SaaS product, right? And then your margin is very, very high. But now you have compute, you have inference costs, you have AI provider costs, right? And then that is a big part of your cost of goods sold. So your advice is to make it very easy to set up, expand, be very strategic about when you land a customer, you need to have a clear path of expanding the revenue that you earn from that customer, not just the immediate sales, right?
Yeah, no, and exactly. And the thing about AI is the cost will come down, right? So, and we've already seen that the cost has come down quite a bit. Now, the real question with AI is all of these running costs are being quite heavily subsidized by the funders of these companies, the Amazons, the Googles, the Microsofts, and so the big question is does it follow a kind of like a Moore's law, and does the unit economics come down to a point where all these AI companies can build a profitable, sustainable business model, or does it go the other way? Time will tell. But one of the key takeaway from the Voxbone learning was you want to be in a better position relative to the market. So if you're competing against a bunch of AI companies and you all have a similar cost base, the challenge is to go figure out how you can sell at a higher price point relative to your cost base, relative to the rest of the market, so that you have higher gross margins. I think ultimately, one of the reasons we haven't quite seen the wholesale adoption of AI across all the different verticals of SaaS today is exactly that, right? The incumbents who are selectively using AI and not building AI natively into their product actually have a cost advantage, right? Because they don't have the running costs across all of their applications. And so what's interesting in this part of the industry development cycle is those legacy players who have introduced a little bit of AI actually have an advantage early on in the market until the AI running costs come down and the maturity of the AI native businesses starts to get up to a point where it can overtake in value. And so we're at this really interesting point where it's not really sustainable today to go build and scale an AI native business, but it probably will be in a few years. It's going to be really interesting to see how the market develops. I personally think the SaaS business model will be fundamentally transformed, and most SaaS businesses as we know it today will die, even though today they're enjoying a very short-lived advantage.
Interesting take. I saw that tweet on your Twitter, or is that X now? You say that the pricing model of seat-based SaaS will cease to exist, and the majority of SaaS valuation will trend towards zero. Can you tell me more? What do you mean?
Most of SaaS is just a workflow machine, right? Which is it's a bunch of if-then statements. So if a human can define it as a bunch of if-then statements, then an AI is going to be able to replicate that. It'll be able to write it. And so I think in the very, very near future, you're going to see a bunch of traditional SaaS be replaced either by somebody with an AI model that has replicated it and open sourced it, or you're going to see more and more companies um, ditch the Salesforces of the world and build their own models internally because it's just becoming a lot cheaper to go build commoditized software, commoditized workflow software, and you can do it in a much better, much more tailored way with the help of AI today. And so in that world, the per seat business model kind of breaks down, right? Because nobody's going to pay per seat to get access to workflow anymore. So where does the value accrue in that world? Well, the value accrues to the data and the modeling layer, because all the value is going to come from the models and the answers that can be produced by the models. In that world, we're going to look is it's going to look far less like per seat and far more like usage based, consumption based, outcome based, right? And we're seeing that now in some of the service sectors where we're seeing services being performed by AI and being monetized on an outcome basis. And so I think that's where the market is going. Uh, what's interesting about that is it's going to be almost impossible for anyone with an existing per seat business model to actually make that pivot, because
Why is that?
it's a fundamental change in the value, the value construct of where they're able to articulate a value prop to their users, right? Salesforce is an interesting case study because they just came out, what was it, a month ago, and basically Salesforce came out a month ago and said that they were going to go all in on usage pricing instead of their per seat pricing. And this is kind of them recognizing what's coming and dipping their toe in. Now they've also already been hit by enterprises pulling them out and building their own CRMs using AI. But I think those that have engineered themselves from the ground up, understanding how the value is going to shift in this new world, are going to be at a massive advantage, because you're going to have different levers that you can pull in order to create better unit economics for you to go compete against these legacy players.
So on the topic of AI, I've seen two co-op um, talk on how to apply AI to existing SaaS projects. Either sprinkle some AI magic there and then call it our software is now AI, or build it from the ground up to be AI native or AI powered. What advice do you have for founder that may already have a SaaS solutions? How can they truly integrate AI into their products and make it something extremely useful to the user?
So first and foremost, I've banned the term AI from all my marketing at Customer OS. We don't use it at all. And the reason is it's only called AI when it doesn't work. When it works, it's just a feature, right? It's just a
Okay,
feature. The
that's
the
amazing.
the, the expectation from the consumer is everything is AI now. Right? Of course, you're using AI to enhance my search. Of course, you're using AI to summarize my conversations. Of course, like, of course you are. So you don't have to keep telling them that it's AI. It's assumed that it's AI, and when you point out that it's AI, I just assume that it doesn't work. The other thing is there's far more emphasis on it. It's going to be a lot harder to add true value. Because in order to become an AI native business, that means you have to own the data and the feedback loops. Right? That's the only way that you're going to build value over the top of commoditized models, any of the open models or any of the proprietary models that you might want to layer into. So you have to own the data and you have to own the feedback loops in order for you to build intelligent applications. I would say the very, very best SaaS companies out there have done this by and large, but they've collected a shitload of data, but haven't been very good at using it. Like the very best have figured out a way to do it, but I think the companies that are going to win in this next stage are the ones that are going to be able to figure out how to make data actionable in a meaningful way to solve real problems, and how to um, close feedback loops the quickest. Right? How do we go from putting data in front of user giving us feedback on that data and then iterating around that so that we can constantly improve the model and constantly be creating more and more value for the business. The last thing is I think the challenge with applying any model to a business is your business isn't stagnant, right? Which means that the model is only going to be good for a short-lived period of time before either the market changes, your business changes, the sentiment changes, the economy changes, right? And so and this kind of feeds into that feedback loop point. But the models have to be adaptive. And I
Mhm.
use the term models because I don't think that building your business around a single model is going to be good enough. Because it's going to need to be adaptive to the changing environment, and that may or may not require multiple sets of models in different environments so that you can continue to be reactive and flexible and grow with your clients, grow with your business, grow with the changing marketing conditions. And so these are all new challenges that we're all figuring out. Like we're still figuring it out. We struggle with these, but I think it's pretty clear like the direction that the market is going. The big unknown is ultimately, are we going to be able to, as an industry, find value in AI native use cases fast enough and drive enough volume through them to bring the cost down to actually build businesses of the margin profile that investors are used to in the SaaS industry. And that's a big unknown for me.
Yeah, before the money trial, like OpenAI or AI provider actually had to determine profit on their API usage, right? And no longer got subsidized by the funder.
Totally right. Yeah, exactly. And there's all kinds of supply chain problems around AI chips and data center build problems. You can only turn on capacity so fast, right? The demand is clearly there, which is usually the hard part, right? If the demand is there, usually there'll be a lot of people that die in the process, but usually the market will figure out how to go deliver something at a price point that is sustainable. But we're still working our way through that. We're early in that cycle. And so there'll be some big winners and a lot of dead bodies along the road.
What is the most exciting? Well, actually, before I ask that question, there's also two school of thought on AI. AI is overhyped and AI is underhyped. Which school of thought are you in, or AI, both or either?
Yeah, both. I think the marketing around AI and its are we getting close to AGI and all this stuff, I think is massively overhyped. Like the models that we have today are really good at solving problems that have been solved before. And what I mean by that is it's really good at taking known knowledge and condensing it and making it available. So if you're asking a programming question that's been solved by somebody before, you're going to get those answers at your fingertips, which is super helpful, right? It makes everybody more productive. You don't have to go to Stack Overflow anymore. The flip side of that is like creative writing. If you try to use AI for creative writing, it's pretty mediocre, right? Because it's only going to give you the words that have been said before, and the best writing is the writing that where you're saying something that nobody has said in a way that nobody has said it before. And so what you're going to get is the commoditization of the known, and anything novel, I think is going to continue to be hard. And that's where the true alpha lives in this new world. The benefits that we're going to get by taking all human knowledge and making it available to everyone is underhyped. The ability to do new and interesting things, I think, is massively overhyped. So I play on both sides.
Would you say like Google search or internet at large has taken the knowledge of humanity and make it available to everyone? What's so special about AI and why is it under in that regard?
So I mean, I literally have conversations with an AI model all day long about anything that enters my mind, right? Because I want to get to a baseline understanding of any topic as fast as possible. And most people would used to go to either Google or Wikipedia for that. But now I can have a much more in-depth conversation. I can't ask Wikipedia questions. My ability to get to like a dangerous level of understanding on any topic is so much faster with AI than it was even by Googling or Wikipedia. Google was a step function change and access to knowledge. I think AI is the same thing. It's a better index of the known knowledge, right? Of known quantities in the world. I think the true power in that is allowing a creative person to explore more topics, more areas, get to that baseline understanding, and then create unique connections. Sometimes AI can even help make some of those connections, maybe not in the way that is understandable to humans, but you can start asking really interesting questions, and it won't necessarily give you great answers, but it'll provoke thought in you to come up with some really interesting insights. Like, oh, yeah, that doesn't sound quite right, but actually it's applicable over here. Having that at your fingertips for those who know how to ask the right questions, and I think that's really where the alpha lies is it's no longer about knowing the answers. That's what got you paid in the last century. It's about knowing what questions to ask. And if you can master that skill, I think you're gonna thrive and be at a massive advantage in the age of AI.
Very similar to you. I have multiple AI chat window open at the same time, and then constantly asking them questions from anything from planning a trip to how do I write this code. I think my coding skill I like took a nosedive after AI came out. Um, but I'm actually more productive as a founder and the CEO. So I'll
Yeah,
take that.
exactly. Your ability to do calculus probably took a nosedive too after you started using a calculator. But we evolve and we're humans and we use the tools at our disposal. You'd be silly not to.
So that's one use case. What other use case you find very incredibly exciting about AI and how it applied to business? Let's do a business one.
I mean, one of the things that we're trying to do inside Customer OS is bring humanity back to business. We think the biggest benefit of AI is today businesses use humans as machines and then use machines as humans. And what I mean by that is they'll take an army of people, usually in some cheap labor area, and use them as a machine to process widgets or, answer support calls or whatever, right? Some low value, relatively commoditized work, they'll hand off to humans. Yet if you actually want to reach out and talk to somebody and have a conversation, whether that's an introductory sales conversation or a support conversation, or maybe you just want to, explore ideas about, how to expand your business relationship. Oftentimes that's handed off to a machine, and especially in a B2C context. And I think that's totally backwards. It's totally backwards. Like when people want to talk to you, that's an opportunity to create value and differentiation by building a human to human connection because people buy from people, people do business with people. They don't do business with machines. And so we think that the real benefit to society and everybody from a business context is AI is going to allow us to flip that back. It's going to allow us to use machines for the repetitive, low value, undifferentiated work. And it's going to allow us to leverage human creativity to do more problem solving, build better relationships, and focus on what humans are really good at. And so it's basically taking the entire industrial age thinking and killing it. Because that all the entire industrial age process was how do we turn people into machine workers and factory line workers and make them commoditized, and we'll have very few people that can think creatively and add value at the top. And we think this flips it. And so everyone becomes a value creator. That's really exciting. I think it's going to fundamentally change the workplace. It'll fundamentally change the types of skills that you need to be successful, which will be disruptive in the short term to society in the same way that the Industrial Revolution was disruptive to agricultural societies. Right? We're going to go through another seismic shift like that, but ultimately, we think civilization and humanity as a whole will be better because of it, right? Because people have more fulfilling work that they're going to do.
Yeah, so that remind me of did you mention like human buy from humans, right? And then on the other hand, I hear a story about people who have like daily conversation with their AI friends and almost to the point where they develop like emotional connections. Like, do you think like humanity will evolve to not only connect with human but also connect with AI because they think that, oh, the AI understand me and be helpful? Do you think we'll get to that point?
Perhaps, right? And you know, if the technology gets good enough to where a machine is imperceivably the same as a human, then what's the difference, right? At that point, does it really matter? As long as you believe that you're building a meaningful relationship, does it really matter?
Yeah,
I'm not sure it does. The Now there's all kinds of implications, and now you're gonna start getting into belief systems and societal norms and things of that nature. But like, if a machine looks like a human, talks like a human, can build an emotional relationship like a human, how are they any different? So I think it's possible. I don't think the current technology will get there. I don't think that's the trajectory we're on. But who's to say that we won't figure that out?
you mentioned this a little bit briefly, right? In the short term there will be a lot of pain. So there's a lot of talk about AI impact on jobs, right? In a B2B SaaS context, what's the best approach to preparing your teams for the shift of manual process and to like AI assisted workflow? How do you prepare
Well,
your team
yeah,
to be best?
it's no different than today. If you look at who are the people that are indispensable inside your organization, it's those that think creatively and solve problems. And uh, and I think that'll be even more true in the age of AI, right? If you look at where AI has actually gotten a significant amount of traction inside businesses today, it's all in cost reduction plays. Right? That seems to be the killer use case that has actually found product market fit, and that's in automating repetitive tasks. And largely inside customer OS, we use it for the same, right? We use it to automate a lot of repetitive tasks so that we can hire fewer people and make sure that the people we hire are those that are creative problem solvers that can think creatively, that aren't just there to push buttons and not think, right? Because I don't you just don't need that anymore. And fundamentally, I think most human beings look for ways to express either their passions or their creativity. Most people are creative problem solvers in their own way. And I think the trick is just going to be to figure out where you can add value. Like, where do you add the most value in society, and not necessarily following the career path or the career trajectory you're on. It's about figuring where you think you can add the most value to society, and start positioning yourself and aligning yourself to that. Because if you're in a repetitive, rote work type of process, and you're young, early in your career, it's going to change. Like, the value equation is going to fundamentally change, and all of the economic pressure is going to be for companies to adopt these tools to drive costs out of the business, because those who don't are going to be at a disadvantage, right? So it's inevitable that this will happen, and I view it as a good thing. But I think it's the responsibility of anyone in the workforce today to recognize these trends and position yourself ahead of it, right? And try and get ahead of it, because if you can, you'll make a lot of money, and you'll be better off as a human.
I can't agree more. So you mentioned like this a customer OS the your favorite use case of AI is to reduce repetitive work so that you can hire less people. Any example that you can give to the listener, some use case where you successfully apply AI?
Yeah, I mean, we do it a lot on the data side. So we use AI a lot. Obviously, we use it a lot when we're writing code, but we also use it on the data processing side. So we integrate with 120 something different SaaS platforms, and so to normalize, standardize, understand the context behind the data, where that used to be a human task, that you'd have to go and have a whole bunch of humans to go and label the data and train the data, and clean the data and standardize the data, normalize the data. Now we just have models that go and do that. It makes our life much easier. So that's been probably the highest ROI use case for us. Obviously, we use it in a number of different applications. I mean, we've trialed the various different features with AI. Like at one point in time, we built we call it an AI SDR, not in the context the way you know it now, but effectively it would take somebody on your website who wanted to book a call. We would use AI to figure out who they were and match them with somebody of a similar profile in the business and then surface that person's calendar. So if you were a CTO, I wouldn't give you the meeting calendar of the SDR to qualify you. I would just give you our CTO's calendar. So you're having a CTO to CTO conversation. That was pretty interesting. But that breaks the existing sales model. And so we didn't actually find a whole lot of market traction for it because most people don't want people inside their business talking to customers, ironically. They want to keep that limited to people who are quote unquote trained. But I think that's bullshit because we're all trained in talking to people. And if those people are like us, we're more likely to have meaningful conversations and build meaningful relationships. So I think that was just an example of where AI is probably too early.
That's fascinating. Do you use it yourself? Or do you have it? If I go to your website and then I'm the CTO, do I get to talk to see the CTO customer OS?
We ended up not maintaining it because there wasn't a whole lot of market demand. So it's not there anymore. But the code still exists somewhere. We'll bring it back someday.
So people want to learn more about you and customer OS, where would they go to find more information about you? Uh, where you're active
Yeah,
online?
I'm probably the most active on LinkedIn. So you can find me on LinkedIn, Matt Brown, Customer OS, you'll find me. But primarily I'm building Customer OS. So if you really want to come talk to me, come to the website, customeros.ai. Click on one of the CTAs, you'll get a link to my calendar and happy to chat.
And then who would be the best who would need customer OS and why?
Yeah, so Customer OS, we're building a all-in-one go-to-market platform for B2B SaaS. We work with anyone who is post-revenue, so you have to have at least a customer, all the way up to late Series A is our target market right now. We help you build, scale, and put systems in place to figure out who your ICP is and ultimately build a repeatable go-to-market motion inside your business. And that includes everything from visitor detection on your website to automating your outbound. So whether that's cold email or LinkedIn, to managing your opportunity funnel. We have a free forever CRM that everything runs on. We do all your data enrichment all the way through to billing and invoicing. So it's truly a full customer lifecycle. Everything from lead to cash you can do on Customer OS.
All right, thank you very much, Matt. It's been great. Thank you so much for taking the time to share with us your wisdom and the experience.
No, thanks for having me. It's been fun. Let's do it again.
All right, we'll see you.